K-State basketball is back in the win column with a big win over 23rd ranked West Virginia. A massive change of pace for Kansas State as the boys are back on track. Maybe not to make the tournament, maybe not to go above and beyond or anything crazy, but the point of what I wanted to say was tonight's game deserves a breakdown. It deserves some comments, it deserves some positivity because what you saw there was completely out of the blue. And I mean that, candidly, that wasn't a game that I sit here and say, I had this on the scouting report. I thought it would work out that way. K-State basketball was elite tonight, and I want to talk about that in today's video. Before I do, quick reminder, hit that subscribe button. It helps out immensely. 3,000 subs, we're closing in. I think we're about 140 away. I'm getting a cat script tattoo on the left thigh, and you don't want to miss out on that. So 3,000 subs once we get there, getting that thing done, so be sure and hit that button. But guys, let me jump in here. There was a lot of quick things I want to take about, and maybe this won't be a 45-minute video breaking down every little thing, but there were some main bullet points or main talking points that I have to discuss in today's video. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention them, but the main thing I come back to, and when you watch the highlights, when you watch the game, you just see it. Every single person on this team, doesn't matter if you're guy number 1 or guy number 13, every single person on this team showed up with elite energy. Everybody competed. It wasn't a situation where it was like, well, who's bought in, who's making the right plays, who's doing this. Every single person that was on the basketball court showed up and played their hearts out. Doesn't matter if they're the most talented, doesn't matter if they're not the most physical. They went out there and competed their tails off. And I personally think it starts with one play. Early in the game, early in the contest, Dug McDaniel sprints to the sideline on a ball that he tips out, dives into the scoring table basically. I mean, doesn't completely leave his feet, but dives out of bounds, saves the ball for Kansas State. You get a fast break in transition. K-State goes and scores a bucket. Now, that's a guy that's been publicly criticized by a lot of people, myself included, for maybe the lack of buy-in, maybe the lack of focus. It was so much so that everybody on social media collectively said, you know what? Doug's here. Dug McDaniel has arrived. Everybody sat there and said, you know what, we have to retain this guy. We have to figure this thing out. Dug was elite. His energy was awesome. His scoring ability is incredible. You see his flash consistently show up. And when you have a point guard that can score the way he does, but also facilitate the way he does, it opens everything on the basketball court. But I don't think that stuff happens without Dug showing hey, I'm here to work. I'm here to win basketball games. And then diving into the stands to go get a loose ball. Those are effort plays that you can't just maybe I'll dive here. Maybe I'll help out here. Dug said, you know what? No, we're working tonight. We're getting back in the win column. Tonight it starts here with my energy. I want to go out and set the tone. Let's see what the team does. And they all matched it accordingly. Every single person showed up. And there's a couple of plays I'll highlight here as well. But when you see Dug McDaniel diving out of bounds to go snag the rock, when you see Ugonna Onyenso fighting off a 1v4 to get a tip out to K-State basketball to get a second chance points, one of the guards hits a 3. I can't remember if it was Brennan Hausen, Max Jones, whoever it was, or maybe Dug. Someone gets a tip out 3 off of Ugo fighting off 4 dudes to get the loose ball tipped out for your team. Those are the things you want to see. Those are effort plays. When you see Max Jones pickpocket one of the best players in college basketball, and Javon Small, take it coast to coast, feed your teammate unselfishly, Dug McDaniel run out in transition. These are the things that inspire your team. Now, I got a couple takes on specific people, but there's a lot of people that deserve mentioning in this thing. I have to tell you about C.J. Jones. Guys, this was the best game of the year for C.J. Jones, bar none. I know he's had a couple of days that technically look better in the stat sheet. His effort on both ends of the court, offense, defense, and transition, whatever you needed from C.J. Jones, he was showing up. He worked his tail off to keep up with a dude that should be an AP All-American. Javon Small buries a step-back 3 in C.J. Jones' mouth. The next play, C.J. comes back, does the exact same thing to Javon Small, and then picks him up full court again, does the same thing, forces a turnover. These are the effort plays. It's not like he got me there, let me take this play off, let somebody else cook. C.J. worked his tail off, and you have to give credit. Had 10 points, 5 boards. C.J. looked really, really good in this contest, and that's the type of upside you want out of him. That's the effort you want to see out of C.J. Huge for him. The next guy I want to talk about, how about Brennan Hausen? I have to say this real quick. He is such an elite weapon. I know some people roll their eyes and say, well, people pick on him on defense. Guys, I have to tell you, I really liked his effort on defense. I liked his energy. I liked that he's still working towards it. And yeah, as a college basketball team, you don't need all 5 dudes to be elite defenders. You can hide guys that are maybe not excellent defenders. But with Brennan Hausen, you didn't see a drop-off in defense of him getting exposed. Guys weren't picking on Brennan Hausen, but what you like for him is this. And Coach Tang said it for multiple weeks. Even in losses, he's been saying the second Brennan Hausen steps on the court, he's open. He can shoot from wherever he'll hit it. I'm not mad at him. In transition, when you get guys going up the court, and Coleman Hawkins is kind of a cheat code in transition considering he is a 6'10" point forward, but you like his ability to find Brennan Hausen and then hit these deep threes, to catch him in transition, find a wide open shot. When you have a guy that knocks down shots like that, get in the basketball. Let him take these shots because he's going to hit 50% of them. He's going to hit 45% of them. Brennan Hausen looked good again last night and showed why you should come back to Kansas State next season. A takeaway that I want to tip my hat to. Guys, the crowd last night was elite. I'm going to be honest about that. This is a team that's 1-6 in conference play heading into the matchup. You've lost blowout loss after blowout loss after blowout loss. I mean, the most positive thing we've seen beyond a Cincinnati win is that they didn't lose by more than 10 to KU at Allen Fieldhouse. There was not positive momentum rolling into this game, and fans showed up in numbers, whether that be the adults or the student section. Like, when you have 9,000 plus people supporting a team that's not very good at the time, that shows so much about the fan base. That is such an elite fan base and group of people. So for everyone that was there, I want to tip my hat to you and say thank you so much. If you saw the videos of Sandstorm, if you saw the early stuff, like, the Octagon of Doom was packed out. It wasn't the Octagon of Room like people have joked about. There was people there for that game, and I expect the same thing going forward. Even if we lose 2 or 3 games here in the row, like, Kansas State is starting to figure that thing out, and the fans are showing up in numbers. They want to cheer for something. They want to believe so bad. And I know that it's a little bit late to try to kick this goal in. Yeah, there's 12 more games. If you go 12-0 in conference play down the stretch, you'll make the tournament. But that's kind of out of the question. I'm not trying to say it isn't, but what I like to see is that fans want to show up. They want to support. They want to see teams compete. It's not like this lack of interest of like, oh, fans don't want to come out and see us. We don't want to do this. They're working their tails off to see you, and you gave an effort that was deserving of their support. So I got to tip my cap to both sides there. The next thing I want to say, there was a comment made by CBS's sports crew, and I got to tell you, I love CBS, man. They are broadcasting the games perfectly. They appreciate what has been given to them. It's not a situation where it's ESPN saying, Kansas State, good game. Over there on the SEC network, we had the football game for the college football playoff. Like, you don't get jerks just trying to make everything about playoffs, everything about postseason tournaments all the time. Doesn't matter if it's college basketball. They're trying to blend in why, like, Kirby Smart should be coach of the year. This is happening and this is happening. Georgia got cheated and this. Everything is about a bigger picture thing. Some people need to sit back and appreciate college basketball, appreciate college football, say this is a good basketball game. Let's not think about everything else going on. Let's focus on what's here. Sorry, quick mini rant about CBS Sports. I appreciate their coverage and the work they did. One of the broadcasters, can't tell you which one off the top of my head, said this. Every time Doug McDaniel plays well, Kansas State plays well. The Wildcats get going. This shows how much responsibility Doug McDaniel has. And yeah, you could say that on paper and just say, well, your point guard has to play good for teams to play good. But when you see Kansas State play good basketball, Doug McDaniel's at the center of it. Coleman Hawkins is at the center of it. And it's not to say that you have to have superstars averaging 15 and 10 every game, but like when the energy is there from Doug McDaniel, the team is better across the whole. Everybody and their brother goes to work. They compete their tails off. And even though there's games where it's just like, okay, maybe it's just Brendan Hausen and Max Jones trying their tails off David Gasson, like those games across the board will happen when guys just aren't into it. It sucks, but it is what it is. The last 3 or 4 games, Doug McDaniel has been locked in. He's been locked the hell in, and he's focused up. Like he understands, hey, I know what I have to do to be this guy. I need to be scoring first. I need to be passing here. I need to do this and this. And I don't know what the relationship's like. I don't know what it'll look like at the end of the season, but I got to tell you what, if you can do it, because it feels like you have at this point, but if you can continue going forward with this, the best version of Kansas State has Doug McDaniel in that picture. If you can get Doug to be Doug consistently and not be, in his own world doing his own thing, like if you get him to stay locked in like he was tonight and focus on the bigger picture of we need to lock in as a team, what do I need to do to get Max going, to get Brendan some shots, to get Coleman Hawkins here in ISO, to do what? When he's locked in and doing things like a point guard should that Doug McDaniel can, you see a superhuman ability where he's the fastest dude on the court. He can get around anybody, he can break you down off the dribble, he can defend incredibly well despite his size. Like, if Doug McDaniel can stay locked in like this, Kansas State's got a good one going forward. A serious dude that I could say is an all Big 12 type player, but you just have to figure out what does he want to do long term. We'll see what that happens. We'll see what it looks like, but keeping Doug McDaniel is something that I previously hadn't entertained entirely. Obviously, it's like you hope he figures it out. You hope he locks in and wants to play at Kansas State, but like tonight's energy was such a wild card curveball that it kind of changed everything. I mean, you could say after last night's game, you could say Ugan Onyenso deserves to be back. He worked his tail off, had a near season high 4 or 5 rebounds in 10 minutes played. Like, the guy bought in. And I'm not trying to say that everybody in the team has to do XYZ thing. It's just something where I'm like, if you get this energy from everybody on the team, there's not a single person that I say, nah, you're okay going. I want dudes back that will work. Will Moby show up the way he did tonight? Will Ugo show up the way he did tonight? Will Doug McDaniel show up the way he did? If they do that, come back. Work your tail off, show up that same way, and add more guys alongside you. Something cool to see. My last thought, because guys, I'm a Moby truther, I'm going to tell you that right now. The man has an athletic mismatch over anybody. And no, the game plan isn't to get Moby 15 touches in the paint to let him dunk on 3 people. Moby needs to be a defensive effort guy. Give Coleman Hawkins and David Gasson a break when he can. Go out there and defend. He had 2 or 3 rebounds in this game where you sit back and you say, how is he jumping that high? Even the CBS crew had a board where, yeah, nobody went up alongside Moby, but Moby got to the point where it felt like his head was on top of the basketball goal. Like, that's the reality. Gets up, skies for the rebound, they say, whoa, Moby, and then they butcher his last name, and they're like, Ikeg Raka, and I was like, that's not, but whatever. It's like, that's not right, but Moby Ike Garuka goes up, soars for the rebound, snags it, goes the other way, and the commentary was like, whoa, Moby, he flew for that one. I mean, that was some superhuman athleticism. That stuff is what you want to see. Moby is that dude, and if you can work on him, you can keep developing his bag and his effort, his intensity is always 110%. And I got to say, that's a lot of JUCO guys where they get that next step of like, hey, I'm competing at the highest level. I worked my tail off to get here. I'm so blessed for the opportunity. Even if it's 6 minutes, for those 6 minutes, my energy is going to be through the roof. And you got to love what Moby has. So I'm excited to see how he continues to develop and that the staff's giving him some time. I mean, if you keep this energy up for everybody, whether it be the 13th guy on the bench or the first guy, like this team's going to win some games. So another game coming up with Oklahoma State to talk about. We'll talk about that once it happens on Wednesday. But for now, I just want to sit back and enjoy this one. Not going to go too crazy, not going to have some giant overarching view. Just want to say thank you for your support, and I'm glad that we all got to get the monkey off our back, get a win, and move forward from there. But guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Thank you all for the support, and I will talk to you soon. Go Cats!